Hello, this is the large-scale data management project we've been working on, and we're 6 team members. It's me, Selvera, Andrew, DiCarlo, Nicolas Moryl, Victoria, Del Emmanuel, and Maahir, Kalban. And this is our project. We worked on social media tracking of COVID-19 vaccines. And for this, we created data analytics and we deployed that on a website. You can see here, and we have a link in case you want to see this working. And different team members to work on different parts of this project. So I'll go over, each one will talk to you about each part they worked on. So first of all, I want to introduce Victoria. She's the one that worked on the registration and login of users. So she'll go ahead and cover that.
So hello, I'm Victoria Garcia. I mainly worked on the Bootstrap, setting out the outline for our website to fit what we needed for our needs. So part of that was creating a login screen for users. So you can go ahead and click register. And as a user, you'll be able to register with the given username and password.
And I think there are requirements for these passwords.
Correct, to add more security for the user's account. So once that's in, you'll be able to you'll be able to have a user account, and then this will be saved using MongoDB and the Django crispy forms.
So I'm already logged in, and then you can see here my profile. In case you're not logged in, you just put your usernames here.
Correct. Be able to put your username and password in, it'll be saved as soon as you create an account.
Oh.
I think you have to log out first. Or maybe you put your username wrong.
Forgot my password. So there it is, the correct one. And so this is for the user login and register. Do you want to describe the work you did for this login and register to work?
Sure. So like I said, I used the Django crispy forms mainly to get the username and password, and implemented the security for the password. And then we use MongoDB to save the user's password and username. And then I also had to adjust the HTML to implement those pages for the login and registration, alongside the HTMLs for the login page and the user registration page as well. Make sure all the links were working to with the buttons as well.
All right, so that covers our login and register. Victoria worked on a lot of, like she mentioned, front end, and someone else who worked on that and worked on this profile was Andrew. So Andrew's going to describe what he did not only on this function, but also what he did on the backend.
Hi, yeah, I'm Andrew DiCarlo. So for this, I did some of the stuff that depends on whether you're authenticated or not. So right now we are logged into the page. If you go up in the top right, you see there's a link to a profile, or there's a link to your user information. So if you click on that profile link, it'll take you to profile and it'll show you your search history. So you can go over to the search tab over on the left, and you can use the search page they made for you. So if you go ahead and search for some term at the top, you can make the search. And once it is done with the search and it shows you your results, you can go back up to the top right and go to your user profile. And you can see there that it has saved that search in your search history. So then if you go click on that link, it'll take you back to the search page. So that's on the front end, that's pretty much the functionality that I implemented. And then besides that, I did do a lot of the hosting stuff. I coordinated with the UTSA staff to get our DNS and our certificates. So if you look up at the top, we do have HTTPS enabled with a valid certificate that we got from UTSA. And with that, I also did some of the security stuff. We have the web server set up to redirect HTTP requests to HTTPS. And then I also did some security scanning, just kind of a run through to make sure we don't have anything open on our server, any ports open that we don't need. And that's pretty much the extent of my contributions.
Right. Well, thank you for that. And then next one is Dylan. Dylan, similar to Victoria, worked on the front end, and he carried more of a bit more in-depth approach to this project.
Yeah, hi, my name is Manuel. As Louis said, I really helped out in the front end. I started with the Django framework in this project, and I helped coordinate kind of like the direction of where this page wanted to be. As you can see on this page, there are a lot of graphs and charts, and my goal was to kind of help get an idea of what are the most important things that we should put on this page, such as tweets, location, and stuff like that. In addition to that, I helped Nicholas, as he'll explain here in a little bit, debug some of the HTML on this page. I'd say one of the biggest learning experiences of this project is I didn't know anything about JavaScript, and definitely got to learn a little bit more about it through this process. So I helped build this page right here, as well as debug some of the HTML to get these graphs to be displayed. In addition to that, I helped a little bit set up some of the Bootstrap. It's a pretty big framework, so there's a lot of files and stuff. So did a lot of locating on that, find certain files and stuff, on debugging on some of the front end stuff like that.
All right, thank you. And transitioning from that, he helped Nicholas, and then Nicholas is the one who worked on this main website.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Moryl, and I helped with the main page. I got a lot of help from Dylan and Victoria on how to pretty much work with HTMLs and web applications. I've never really done a web application, so it was quite an experience. All right, we can first start searching a term, say COVID-19.
Should I put it like 19 like this?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I do the search, and from this, these results are extracted, right, from the API from Twitter?
Yes, so the graphs here are from a previous search, so you're not going to see just nothing. For all the graphs to make it, I used the Python matplotlib library. And for all the data collection, I used pretty much Python scripting to collect the data, and then the pandas library to filter and store everything on a data frame so that we can get it onto the graphs. And you'll see it just updated. For the Google Trends regions leading interest, the Uganda is the most frequent state province. So that's why it's popped out, and you'll see it up top. We do collect 1,000 tweets every single time. The most retweeted post will be from this user. Most popular user is the person who has the most followers. So that'll be India Today. And then this will be the Google interests over the past 5 years graph. So COVID-19 didn't really hit until spring 2020. So that's why it's had a 0 for the past 5 years. And then it peaked when it first hit. And now it's kind of dropped off, as you can see. And then for the number of tweets by location graph, this will be whatever user dictates as their location. So most users don't give out their location. So that'll typically be the first place one. And those boxes will be foreign languages. We weren't able to figure out how to produce those foreign symbols, so it just showed up as boxes. And then next we have the About Me. This is pretty much the page. I'm a social media data analyzer. On the dashboard, you can search any term. It's not limited just to COVID. And we'll pull numbers from Google Trends and Twitter for you. To the right of the dashboard, we have Twitter charts and Google Trends, and those will go talk about COVID-19 to keep you up to date with it. And I'll hand it off to Luis next, and he'll talk more about the Twitter charts.
All right, so thank you for that. And this is what Nicholas worked on. He's actually extracting data on real time. So that's a big accomplishment that he was able to do. And that makes it a bit complicated in the sense that we have to go through the whole pipeline of getting the tweets from the actual website and then analyzing it and then showing it here. So that was obviously very hard, but as for me, I took an approach in which I use tweets, or at least for my section, tweets that were already in some repository. And for that, you'll see that I have a bit more data on this, but our plan was to merge his information with mine. But this is the most updated version of the analysis, and you can see the results. And if in the future, in a week or a month, you do this search again, you'll probably get different results according to the trends. So now I'll go ahead and share my contributions, which were on Twitter. And as he mentioned, we have Google Trends and Twitter. So those are the main two social media we focus on. So first, tweets. So I broke out these charts into sections, and each one focusing on one specific part of the Twitter in general. So first, I have a representation of the number of tweets that mention or are related to COVID. And here you can see the trend in the last 4 months. Well, now it's 6 months since it's already May. You can see it up and going down. And you can also see how many tweets are being done regarding the COVID per day. And you can see the similar trend to the monthly. And also we can see which weekdays are the ones that there being the most tweets on this. And this is on COVID, since we focus on COVID analysis and the vaccines itself. But this can be expanded to any topic of interest. And then we have word cloud. And this is just essentially looking at what are the words that are mostly mentioned in the tweets that I extracted from the repository of COVID-19 tweets. And then that's just about tweets. Then we have hashtags. So here I analyzed the actual hashtags being used, and you can see they're similar. Then they're all regarding the vaccines, since it's what's coming out right now, and then COVID. And we also have pie charts to give a more visual representation of how bigger it is, even though like Pfizer BioNTech and Pfizer BioNTech are the same, so you can mesh them into one. And then we have the top retweeted hashtags, and we have the favorited. And these two kind of allow to see which ones are the ones that people are willing to expose to share information on, and which ones they just want to favorite. And similar to tweets, we have these hashtags. Since hashtags are smaller than tweets, tweets can have whole sentences. Hashtags are just typically one word or two. We have often the same vaccine repeated over and over, along with COVID-19. That's hashtag. And engagement. Engagement is essentially how much retweets or favorites together are being put into this topic of COVID-19. And similar to the previous one, we can see the number of favorite and retweets per day. And we can separate that into retweets and favorites. And you can see that there's actually been like a decrease of that activity, similar to what Nicholas showed. This is because the vaccine is going on, people are starting to get vaccinated, so the topic is starting to decrease. And then we have accounts. Accounts is where we focus on, and more specifically, what is going on with the, I guess, most engaging accounts. So this is, for instance, the most engaging, meaning the one that receives the most retweets or favorites. You have the most retweeted ones and the ones that receive the most favorites. So these are the accounts. And then we have verified versus non-verified. Obviously, we have more non-verified talking about this topic. And here's some more visual representation of that. So this is just to look into the accounts. I know Nicholas showed like the account with the most popular. This is a bit more in depth into actually different accounts. And then we have sources. Sources deals with with the platforms, for instance, iPhone or the web app or Android. And then we also deal with the countries where most of these tweets coming from. But you can see some redundancy, London, England, and London, they could be the same. And just a matter of putting London inside the England country. And then we have visual representations of the same bar graphs to give a better sense of which ones are the ones occupy the more space. And we have a heat map. This heat map shows which ones are the most active. And all this comes from a repository of tweets. And then at the end, we have sentimental analysis. This one, we want to see what is the views on this topic. And we have the positive views, which is the tweets that are actually positive about COVID. And then we have neutral and we have negative. So we can see here the positive, there's a spike on this date. Neutral seems to be content slowly decreasing. And you can see on negative, on certain dates, it starts spiking. So that seems to be a trend. Suddenly, negative tweets about COVID start coming out. And also regarding accounts, we have which ones accounts are the most positive, most neutral, and more negative. And the overall view of this, surprisingly, a lot of tweets are positive regarding COVID, and a lot of neutral and lower of negative. And then just to add up to the sentiment analysis, we have this section. And then here we just show the top positive, top 10 in this case, positive tweets, top 10 negative, and top 10 just subjective and objective. And that goes by a score that you can see here, polarity and subjective. And that is explained here, which negative means negative. Negative number, -1 means negative sentiment, and positive 1 means positive sentiments. And then subjective, how objective or subjective the tweet is. And then you can put something here, why COVID, and then you can just get your results here according to this sentence. So I'm just reapplying what was done to these tweets to find the top positive or negative to the sentence you input. And you can see the polarity is -0.8. That means it's actually negative. And subjective, very subjective. It's just you saying you have a feeling towards that vaccine. And expanding on these tables, this actually was mentioned before, the search. Remember in the profile, you can save your searches. And then we have a total of about 8,000 tweets in this repository. So we have to load all that into this website. And from here, we have different columns, and you can search similar to what we already show on the columns. The tweets, it will look for the tweets. If you're interested in one specific column, like user location, you can use actually that. So for instance, India, but you have to put the column name and then the name of the country, and then that should show the location. India, India, India. That's in case you're interested, and then you can look for more stuff here. That was a lot on the Twitter data analytics, but now I'll pass it to Maahir. He worked on the Google Trends.
Yes, thanks. I'm Maahir Kalban, and I focused on the Google Trends part. Primarily, I followed the model view controller framework. And for the model, I had a JavaScript that called the Google API using the pytrends.request. And once I was connected to the Google API, I was able to search keywords. So in my case, I have 4 different keywords: COVID, Pfizer, J&J, and Moderna. So once I connect to the Google API, I'm able to pull the data for a certain period of time, which I chose January 2020 through May 2021. And once I get that data, I pass it on to the controller, which takes the labels and the values and takes those values and passes it on to the view, which is the front end, the HTML, as well as the JavaScript for which I'm able to display that data. And as you can see, the trend for Pfizer and Moderna are pretty similar. The data is different, but the trends are very similar. And if you compare it to J&J vaccine at the bottom, you can see it only peaked around April 2021. So with that, I think I'll pass it back to Luis for closing remarks.
All right, thank you. And I believe this covers the front page of what we were able to accomplish in this website that tracks COVID-19 interests, as mentioned here by Google Trends. A little bit onto the topic of the vaccines on Twitter and on Google. We have some users so they can keep track of the actual information they're searching and their searches, and then we enable for them to quickly search whatever previous searches they did. We were able to extract tweets from actual Twitter API and extract COVID interest from Google Charts API. We implemented MongoDB, the databases, to keep a record of this data, and we were able to use Django for this. Anything that I might be missing, anyone who has something else to contribute, maybe not on the front end, maybe something else that came from the back end, since this is not shown on the website.
You can demonstrate that we can redirect from an HTTP page to an HTTPS.
Yes, I believe that was covered by Andrew, and that's a security feature we added as well, since we have a user. And when I mentioned, most of us are new to this. Most of us have to learn a lot of new things in this project. As was mentioned previously, we have to learn JavaScript. We have to learn, some of us have to learn how to track data from Twitter. I know some were not familiar with Python, and it was the first time working with it. And even a whole overall project creating a web framework as and creating this website and actually making it work. We host this website on a VM. And this is how we're able to get this link and this IP for it to access it from anywhere. Is there any points I might be missing?
You covered it all.
I think I'm good.
All right, so I want to thank you for your time of watching this video, watching our project. We worked really hard on it, and we're proud of it. So we hope you like it, you enjoy it. Give it a try, and thank you all for your attention.